And now for the main event, we are privileged to hear from our guest speaker today. He served in the ministry for over 30 years and he spent 2 years serving with NEP and 19 years as a parish youth minister. Ladies and gentlemen, let us all welcome our speaker for today, Mr. John Beaulieu.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Or actually, it's good evening for you. It's good morning for me. It's so great to be with you. I love the fact that we're all gathering to talk about what real love is, because right now, I think there's a lot of confusion out there. Everyone's looking for love, but a lot of people are having a hard time finding it. And we are made for love. Our bodies, our hearts, our minds, our souls are made to be in love and to experience the joy of love. If you go online and you Google what is love, you're going to get over 11 billion results, and they're all going to be delivered to you in like half a second. If you Google, how do I find love? You're going to get over 9 billion results. And every one of these will have maybe some similarities, but there's a lot of different views and opinions on what is love and how do we find love and how do we make love work for us in our lives? Because look, the human heart, we long to be loved, to be known, to be respected, to be cared for, to feel secure. And yet there's so many things that can shortcut that and undermine that and make us actually feel more pain than good at times. And today I just want to share a little bit about what is real love. So I'm going to do two presentations. The first one is I'm just going to talk about love first, and then when we're going to take a little break, and then come back and I'm talking about how does this work in the digital age. Now you might be asking yourself, John, what do you really know about love in the modern age? Well, I can tell you this. Me and my wife, Lisa, we have been married for 33 years, and we have 5 beautiful children. And 2 of my older daughters, Madeline and Catherine, have found love, have fallen in love, and have married the men of their dreams. In fact, my daughter, Catherine, is now pregnant with my first grandchild. And I still have a 14-year-old daughter at home. Her name is Therese. She's absolutely lovely, beautiful young lady. And I have helped all of my children in and out of the experience of falling in love and how do we find real love in our lives. And I think I've done a pretty good job. And like I said, it was shared earlier, I did youth ministry for 19 years. And I've worked with a lot of teenagers and young adults in my day. I've seen the ache in their heart as they're looking for something that will make them really feel fulfilled and find that true joy in life. And I've helped them when they have fallen into, out of love and the pain that can cause. So I think I know a little bit about the subject, and I'm just glad to be able to share what I've learned in my life and what I've experienced through my work with thousands of young people, including my own children and my wife, and just the joy of love that we found. Now, there have been countless songs, poems, stories, books, movies that have written about love, and they talk about the joy and the pain, the heights and the depths of falling in and out of love. And love has been the subject of some of the most enduring romantic work and art ever created in the history of mankind. But love in and of itself is something that can take on very different forms in our lives as we grow and as we come to maturity. And I want to talk about that. Like, what are the types of love that you're going to experience in your life? Because believe me, you want love in your life. We all do. It is one of the most basic essential needs, and every psychiatrist and every philosopher and even our faith teaches us that love is a real thing that we were created for. So what are the types of love? Well, first, let's talk about infatuation. Infatuation is when you come across somebody, you just crush hard on them. Like, you just see them and it's like, oh, wow, this person is so amazing. There's lots of emotions. It's like this thrill of love, like, oh my gosh, this person is so amazing. I want to be with them. I want to get to know them. I want to spend time with them. The feelings of infatuation are very intense. When you're in junior high and high school, as you're experiencing the development of your body and the hormones that go along with it, they can make the feelings all the more intense. But oftentimes these feelings, as intense as they are, don't last. And a lot of young people, make the mistake at this point of mistaking these feelings for real love. Emotion is powerful, but emotions are not love. Love can cause us to have a whole range of emotions, very deep and profound emotions, but love in and of itself is not an emotion. It is something much deeper. But let's say you meet somebody and every time you see them, you're like, oh, my heart's beating fast. Oh, they're so beautiful. You want to be alongside them. You want to get to know them. So you want to develop the next phase in your relationship, which might be romantic love, where you move beyond just feelings and you get to know the person, and it stirs in you even deeper feelings that are not so much emotions, but movements of your heart. I want to imagine, like to think of yourself as like a sphere. If you were to look at yourself like a sphere, the outer shell of yourself is your emotional life, right? How you react to the world around you. It's the part of you where you experience pain, where you joy, where you experience like food. They touch you. You experience all these different things, but there's deeper parts of you that penetrate beyond this core of emotion. Once you penetrate through emotions, then you get into your intellect and your will, what you decide and how you choose to act in these situations. And a lot of people right now are living just on the emotional shell. Everything that they want to do in their life is based on trying to get just an emotional response, either good or bad. There's some people who are addicted to bad emotions. They like drama in their lives, and they can be kind of hard to be around because they're always trying to stir up negative emotions. But we're often led by the powerful emotions that we have for joy, our desire for love. And when you look at like how it's portrayed in movies, the idea is that you meet somebody, this wave of emotions come over you, and you're swept off your feet, and you're just swept into each other's arms, and the music swells, and you look, and everything's perfect. And I think oftentimes what Hollywood shows us in movies is more infatuation than true love, because we want the real deal, the kind of love that's not just on the surface of our lives, but touches us deep down in our hearts. When I think of my own relationship with my wife, I have to be completely honest. When I first met her, I was overwhelmed by her. I mean, she was beautiful. She's absolutely lovely, and I'll have a picture to show you during the next session. She absolutely was the woman of my dreams. She was smart. She was intelligent. But when I first met her, I didn't love her because I didn't even know her. It's as we got to know each other and truly begin to share our lives and share our dreams and our hopes and our goals for our life, and we realized that we were so compatible, that we shared more than just happy feelings towards one another, that we actually began to develop love and grow in love. People talk about falling in love. I think falling in love can be kind of a misnomer, because you can fall in love, you can also fall into a hole. It's not necessarily a good thing, because we want to understand, as powerful as the emotions can be, they can't define the level of love that we have for one another in the end, because emotions go up and down. I mean, think of yourself. You wake up in the morning, you're getting ready for school, and you're tired. You don't want to get out of bed, but then maybe a friend of yours sends a text message or a funny meme, and you're laughing, and all of a sudden you're like feeling in a better mood. But then you look down at your phone and you realize, oh my gosh, I didn't study for this quiz I have today. I'm going to fail. And all of a sudden you're in this moment of terror and feeling overwhelmed. But then your mom calls from downstairs, says, "I'm cooking you breakfast. What do you want?" And you get your favorite breakfast. All of a sudden you're happy again. But then you realize, oh man, my hair doesn't look all that great today, and then you're kind of getting a bad mood again. You can be constantly on an up and down emotional roller coaster, and that's even before you have breakfast in the morning. And that's just the nature of growing up. That's just the nature of life. But that's just the nature of emotions. But that's why we can't root real love in just this emotional response to things around us. When we as easy as it is to fall in love with somebody, it's just as easy to fall out of love. The problem is when we fall in love and we're looking for romance with another person, and that's all we're looking for. We're just looking for somebody who makes us feel good and feel good about ourselves all the time. We may not be approaching this other person with any real sense of love, but approaching them because we have a void in our life that we're trying to fill in our lives. We have emotional needs. We're emotionally wanting to fill the emptiness of our life with another person. An emotional need is something that you've decided you must have in order to feel good about yourself. That is, you can't feel like you're complete without somebody in your life. I know a lot of people, as they grow up and as they get older, in their search for love. Uh, some people never get to that point where they know who they are, they have a good sense of themselves, and they approach other people with not just with what they can receive from that person, but what I could give that person. Real love is not about what does this person give to me and how does this person make me feel, but love is how can we build one another up and truly give ourselves to one another in a healthy way. Romantic love is a meaningful experience. There's no doubt about it. It can bring great joy, but it also can bring immense pain and suffering, especially when we give ourselves to another person, expecting that they're going to fulfill the deepest needs of our heart. And oftentimes we find that there isn't that person. And so we go down this road with this person, we try to fall in love, but we break up. There's heartache, there's pain. We end up feeling worse about ourselves. We wonder if I'm the problem. Am I lovable? I think the first important thing is if you really want to be somebody who moves through infatuation and romantic love into real love, lasting love, you have to know who you are. You have to have this sense of, I understand that I'm lovable. I understand that I have something to bring to a relationship. And you need to find peace with who you are and a better understanding of how you can be a whole person. Because if you go to a relationship saying, there's like the famous line from Jerry Maguire. It's a movie about scaffold. Anyway, the line is, "You complete me." And that's a wonderful sentiment because I would say that my wife and I have built this great love, this great emotional bond, but we also complement each other. I don't know if she completes me as much as she compliments me. Like we were made to be together. It's like, okay, you got two things, they're both great, but when you put them together, something more beautiful comes about. That's the kind of person you want to be. And your best chance of finding true love in a safe and healthy relationship, and one unlikely to suffer betrayal and rejection, is to approach it out of desire, not emotional need. I want to say that again. If you're going to pursue somebody and try to get to know them and try to discover what makes you complete on your path to wanting to fall in love and find somebody to spend the rest of your life with, don't approach them out of an emotional need. Approach another person out of a desire to get to know them. Because if you're only looking at yourself and what you can get out of this relationship, you'll never see the other person for who they truly are. And that's the great challenge of romance, is that there's so many powerful emotions that we think if we have somebody in our life that stirs up emotion in our life, then that must be the sign that we truly are in love. And the reality is it's not. Yes, the emotions can lead us to a place where we are willing to invest more deeply in getting to know somebody, but you can't really equate the emotional experience of falling in love with being in love and staying in love. Because everyone, I think, at different times in my life, I think of all the times I quote unquote fell in love before I met my wife. I wasn't necessarily giving myself or emotionally invested as much as I was just trying to find somebody who'd make me feel better about who I was. And I think my emotional needs were, I just wanted to have somebody who looked at me and said, I'm a good person. And what I realized, and this is a little bit where my faith kicks in, is the person who validates me, who makes me understand that I'm good and lovable, is not my wife, it's God himself. God looks at me and he says, you're good. You're awesome. I love you. And because of his grace, I find I have the strength to love my wife, even when I don't feel like loving her. Because I'll tell you something, in 33 years, we love each other more than we ever have. We have a deeper commitment and a deeper bond to one another, not because all the time we feel this great wave of emotion, but because we've had this history together. We have children together. We have this life that we've built together. We look at one another and we say, we have been next to each other in good and bad, up and down. And that's the real love I think we are hungering for. Love always can begin as an emotion, but it has to become a verb. You have to begin to start to choose to love somebody, because if love doesn't grow into a verb, something that you choose to give somebody and something that you choose to invest in over time, it's not real love. Love is not just the emotional part, it's so much more. In fact, when we think of what love is, the opposite of love is not to hate somebody. Because if I hate somebody, at least I recognize them as a person. And now my emotions towards them are not good. My feelings towards them, and if my hatred becomes actions or words, then that's even worse. But honestly, the opposite of love is not hate. The opposite of love is to use somebody, to look at them and say, I don't really care about you. I'm using you to make myself feel good. I don't want to love you. I want to use you. I want to be with you so that you make me feel good. And that can happen on the emotional level. And unfortunately, it really can quickly escalate and become a physical thing. Because sometimes we equate physical expression with real love. That's another lie. In this whole world of romance, you have to be wary, because if you stop at the romance level and it's all about trying to generate emotions and stir up feelings, you will do things that you don't believe you should be doing in order to achieve that. Especially if you have such a strong emotional tie to somebody and they start asking you to do things that you're not comfortable with. This is why, like, romance is beautiful, and this is why it's I think the most dangerous part of falling in love, because we can be so overwhelmed by the emotions that our judgment can get clouded. And there's a few things that we can do to keep that from happening in our life. Number one, I would say the third kind of love that I want to talk about is the love that you really should be investing at this time in your life. And that's friendship love. When you choose friendship love, like to commit yourself to your friends in a real powerful way, what you're doing is you are figuring out how to be in relationship with people who have common interests. Maybe your friends are your teammates on your sports team, your classmates that you study together, you're studying the same subjects. Maybe they're people that you work together at a job. Or maybe your friends are people that you go to church with, you have that in common. See, one of the things that will build true love and real love for you in your life is to find somebody that you have a lot of in common with. It is in friendship that we begin to become the person that will be prepared for real, lifelong, committed love, that real love that our heart truly longs for. It is there that we learn how to be with somebody in their good times and their bad times. We learn how to share our hearts, our goals, our dreams, our pain with another person. Friendship, in many ways, gives life much more meaning and purpose than romance does. Because I would say what really defines my wife and our relationship is this deep, abiding friendship. It's still romantic, it's still filled with emotion, but we have stuck by one another with loyalty and purpose and meaning, commonly giving ourselves to one another and together giving ourselves to our children. There's a big lie in the world today. And I just want to be clear that you may have to learn this for yourself. I hope you don't. I hope this is something maybe you're starting to understand. That people who exist just for themselves, who just exist for fulfilling their own desires, their own needs, for whatever that might be, physical needs, emotional needs, sexual needs. There's all sorts of different needs, but if people are just living to fulfill their own needs, they are going to be emotionally crippled and unable to find real love, because in the end, love is about giving, not taking. There's givers, there's takers, and there's people who are in between. But we would want our life to be marked by generosity in friendship, by being loyal in friendship. As we develop friendships with our peers, we are actually learning the skills that will make us the kind of people that will have real love in our lives, because love is not defined by what we take, but by what we give. We also learn in friendship how to forgive. Because the thing about friendship is you choose your friends. I don't believe you have to be friends with everybody. You don't have to be the most popular person. You don't have to have everyone liking you. In fact, I would say it's better for you to have a handful of people that you really get to know, who are really committed to. You can be nice to everybody. You can have relationships with everybody and know their name and be nice, but we need to find people. We need to find people that we share things in common with, that we can share our hearts with. People that will walk by us and support us. People that will be there for us when things go bad. I have had some of my friends now for 40 years. We've been friends. People that if I were to see them, even if I don't see them for years, if they live in another part of the country, we're just having to run into each other and sit down, we'd be able to have a great conversation. This happened to me a few weeks ago. I went down to a gathering in Miami, Florida. Some of it was meetings, some of it was more just, kind of social. And one of the guys that was at this meeting was a guy I hadn't seen in 15 years, but he was somebody who's very important in my life. And we had kind of drifted apart just because we had, he was living in Minnesota, I'm living in Ohio. I didn't have a lot of time to get together, but we sat down and had dinner and we talked for an hour straight about all the things that was happening in our life. I was talking about family, about my job, about my relationship with God. We were talking about all these things because we had built up this friendship. Friendship endures. Emotions don't endure. Emotions come and go. We want to be the kind of people who know in real love how to invest in one another and invest in true love. So the next kind of love that you're going to experience in your life, and hopefully you're experiencing this a lot, of course, is your family. Family is one of the areas that should be teaching us the nature of what real love is. In family, you learn how to forgive. I don't know any perfect family. I know everyone says, oh, I wish I had this family. I wish I had a different family. I don't like my family. We struggle with family. Guess what? Every family has its struggles. Every family has its challenges. But that's the nature of love. Love is not coming together alongside somebody you never argue with or you don't have conflict with. My wife and I, as much as we agree on things, sometimes we have great disagreements. And I say things to her that hurt her, and then she gets mad or hurt. She says things to me that hurt me, and I get mad. We have arguments, but we always know at the end we want to forgive each other. We want to work these things out because that's what family does. And as a husband and wife who share this deep love for one another, we want to teach our children what it looks like to forgive. Our children have learned to forgive one another, have learned to forgive themselves, have learned to move on, have learned to communicate their needs, have learned how to serve one another and be generous with one another. They have found the importance of having meaning and connection and purpose within their family. They have learned the lesson that, yes, God wants us to give ourselves and not live just to please ourselves. And they've learned that lesson within the family. This is why I'm so excited for my daughters, both of them having been married. Yesterday was my older daughter Madeline's 4th anniversary, and I'm just so excited for her. And she just sent me a little text message saying, with a picture of me and her on her wedding day, dancing at her wedding reception, saying, "Dad, just thank you for teaching me all about love. I wouldn't be the person I am without." And she was celebrating her anniversary with her husband, but she was thanking me, and it just moved my heart because I realized if I've done that for my children, if I've done nothing else than to teach them the true nature of love and how to find real love in their life, then I've done everything I possibly could. I've done the best thing for them. So true love, the real love that we're looking for, that's what your heart is looking for. You're looking for the real deal, what real love. Let me tell you, real love is a decision. It's not based on emotion. It's based on commitment. And this love is communicated more deeply and beautifully through how you treat somebody than how you feel about them moment to moment. It's defined by the way you speak to them, by the way you serve them, by the way you care for them, by the way you forgive them. It is not about feeling it. It's about doing it. Like I said, romantic love is so powerful and so awesome in so many ways, but eventually love has to move from being a feeling to being a verb. It is something that you do. We do love. It's an action. When love is based on this, and it's based on a commitment, and it's focused on this person, it gives you something that feeling can never give. And that's true meaning and purpose. I believe like right now, the greatest lie that's being told to the young people is do what feels good for you. You're the center, and with this comes this empty, hollow, shallow life where the world is trying to tell you just become isolated and just do your own thing. You don't need anyone to fulfill you. You can find it in money. You can find it in popularity. You can find it in the stuff that you can buy and making sure you have the latest iPhone and the coolest fashions and the best makeup or the biggest muscles. That's what's going to give your life meaning and purpose. So just invest in yourself. You're the center. Nothing else matters. Like, you're up here and everything else is down here. Be that person. And we see this all over social media. You go online, right? These TikTok influencers and these people who have their YouTube channels and all the people out there trying to tell you how to live your life. What you're seeing is a very carefully curated, often staged representation of what their life really feels like. Because we know that true love and true purpose, and this is not just my faith speaking, I also have a master's degree in psychology, and most psychologists will tell you the same thing, that true meaning and purpose is not found in self-centeredness. It's found in real love. We are hardwired for intimate connection with other people. And this is why the pandemic has been so hard for so many of us. We weren't able to be together. We weren't able to have real relationship and real connection with people. And here in the United States, the CDC, the Center for Disease Control, who studies different social and medical and health issues, just released yesterday a whole study, and I browsed through it last night, talking about how 1 in 3 young ladies and 1 in 4 young men have contemplated suicide in the last year. That we see things like depression and anxiety and drug abuse and feelings of just sadness, constant sadness, wash over so many young people today. If you're feeling that, one of the solutions, probably the best solution, is to go find somebody to share that with. We are hardwired to be in community, to give and to support one another. And the other thing is, when you share it with somebody and the other person shares it, you can build one another up. Sometimes we just can't pull ourselves out of things alone. We need the help of our friends. We need the help of our family. We need the help of our faith. But sometimes, the hands and feet of God come to us in the face and in the love that another person can give. In fact, it was one of the prayers of Saint Teresa of Avila who said, "Christ has no hands, no feet, but ours now." We need to be this gift of love for one another, especially as we start to finally throw off all the limitations and the barriers that the pandemic put upon us. The real love, that we want, that deep, meaningful, forever love, starts with us learning how to do that for one another in friendship. And then when we find the right person and we're ready to give our hearts, we'll know how to do that because we've been practicing that with our friends. It'll take on a whole new meaning once you fall in love with that person and you give themselves and you start this lifelong journey together. But it won't be unfamiliar for you because this is how you've been living your life with your family and your friends for years. I will tell you the happiest people I've ever met in my life, I met when I was a missionary in Mexico. I spent a month living in a dump with people who lived there because they had nowhere else to live. So this city of El Paso, Texas, right across the border is a town called Juarez. And Juarez, as it grew, they used to have a dump outside the city, but as the city grew, the city grew around the dump. So what they decided to do is build another dump farther out, and they just took a bunch of dirt and covered up all the garbage, like with a 20-foot layer of dirt. So like in the middle of the town is like this mound of dirt. And they said to all the homeless people, if you go up there and you start building yourself a home, you can just own the property, because the city didn't want anything to do with it. The city wasn't going to build anything on it. So people started building little huts made out of wood and in, and just little shacks. But as people lived there longer, they started making houses out of bricks. And so as you drive through this part of the city, what you see is people who came there with nothing. But in the middle of this area where thousands of people live with their children, with no running water, no electricity, they all cook on little gas stoves and light their homes with little gas lamps because the city won't build a water system for them. They won't run power lines up there. In the middle of this, they built a church. And I went to church with them every Sunday. And for them, church wasn't, this boring little experience. They were together celebrating the love and just the joy they had of all that God had given them. And these are people that, in our eyes, probably we thought, man, these people have nothing. But they had one another. They gave themselves to their children. They raised their children. They were happy. They had community. They had love. They had real love. And they were joyful. And their church would last for 2 hours because they just want to keep singing more songs and just be together. They weren't distracted by all the little trinkets and the flashing things that we fill our lives with. No one had their face buried in their phone. They were together and they looked at each other. As wonderful as our phones can be to help us keep connected, sometimes the phones can be together alone. I was up in Cleveland, which is a couple hours from where I live, and I was going to lead a retreat. So the night before the retreat, I was staying in a hotel there, and I was alone. And I went to a restaurant to get some dinner, and I sat down and I put my phone down on the table, and I was waiting for the waitress to come by. And I looked across this restaurant full of people. I would say 2/3 of them weren't looking at the person they were sitting across the table with. They were looking at their phones. See, real love can't be found in phones. And this is why I think they're the biggest distraction against the things that really matter in life. We're not going to find what our hearts are looking for in our phones. We're going to find what our hearts are looking for in one another. We are hardwired for intimate connection, and we don't want to short circuit our ability to build these connections by being on our phone and just living there. It's only when we have love based on commitment and giving ourselves to one another that we can be truly satisfied. It taps into our God-given need to make a gift of ourselves to another person. Jesus himself taught in the Bible that there's no greater love than to lay down your life for a friend. This is the type of friendship that is at the heart of a lifelong successful marriage, a lifelong successful friendship. It is what eventually romance should become. If romance is just being used for romance's sake because you want to feel good or feel an emptiness in your own heart, that's never going to last. It'll never make you happy. Because there's a part of you a part of your heart that can only be activated and give meaning and purpose to you as you give yourself to another person in true love, committed love, holy love. The feelings that are attached to this are so much deeper and more profound than the feelings that are attached to romantic love. They are more than emotion. It taps into your basic need to feel secure, to be known, to be understood. It gives you confidence in who you are. It gives courage when you're in committed love. Romance often can be very tenuous, like, oh my gosh, what if this person stops loving me? I'm going to die. It doesn't have the firm foundation that committed, selfless love has. It's all about, I can't lose this person because if I do, I'm just going to be so miserable and I need this. You should never go to another person and want a commitment from them or a relationship with them because you need them. You should want a relationship with them because you want to be somebody for them and you want what they are to be a part of your life. You should desire, not need. That's the difference, I think, between so many, teenage heartaches and teenage young people just getting in relationships that aren't healthy, because we keep going into these relationships thinking that other person's going to fulfill my deepest needs just by being with me, the relationship can get very manipulative. It can get very dicey because then it's just a game of whose needs get filled first. And unfortunately, when it's emotional needs that you're trying to, fulfill, oftentimes we sacrifice our values to keep the emotional needs in check by, uh, you know, entering into a physical relationship that crosses boundaries that we probably shouldn't be crossing in high school. Physical love, the sexual love, it really only works with a lifelong commitment. And this covers, and I'm not just talking about like holding hands and kissing. That's a part of courting and dating, but the more intimate expressions, including what we refer to euphemistically as making love, is sometimes the exact opposite. Physical expression is not making love, it's the expression that married people have of their real love. They are so one with one another through this commitment that they've made that their physical bodies cooperate first with what the heart and the mind have done. Like when I committed myself to my wife and said, I'm going to be with you forever, it gave her the emotional security to truly give herself to me in a beautiful way, and vice versa. This physical love, this physical expression only works in the context of real committed love because your heart is the most important thing. There are so many young men and women I know who've entered into a physical sexual relationship in high school thinking that that would be the next step of romantic love and that would fulfill them. But what happens when people join themselves together physically is the hearts are joined together, and when they break up, it's not just a physical breaking, it's an emotional breaking. It can break your heart and leave scars upon you emotionally and psychologically that will make it hard for you to find love again. And so, there's often a pattern where if this happens to your, like I'm in and out of love, I'm in and out of relationships with guys or gals, I'm doing things with them that I shouldn't be doing, but I'm looking for real love, but all I'm doing is entering into a physical sexual love with somebody that I'm not married to. We end up tearing each other apart and tearing ourselves apart to the point where we just give up on the idea of finding real love and just are going to settle for meaningless casual hookup. And that's the culture we're in now. I think so many people have found it so hard to make a gift of themselves because they're told it's all about you, make yourself happy. So they go out and they have sex with somebody thinking, oh, this is what's going to make me happy. And it never does. Not for long term. It might give them pleasure in the moment, but they have life-filled regrets. And there's consequences to these actions. There's unborn children that are conceived. Some are raised without two parents. Others are aborted. It can spiral out of control. We can just see of the fruit of this that the decision to enter into a relationship of that nature when you don't have lifelong committed love puts yourself, your partner, and any unborn children that you might conceive at risk. Now, I know that probably most of you listening are not sexually active, and that's great. I mean, I think, I want to encourage you. You're beautiful and special and wonderful enough that you should wait for a guy or a gal to say to you, I want to be with you forever. And have made a commitment to you to be with you forever. Something that you have really gotten to know and can provide. This is why, like if you were to ask me, like, this is what I said to my daughters. Can you go out on dates? Yes, go out on dates, get to know guys, but don't do that to the exclusion of friendship. Well, how far can I go? It's not about how far you can go. It's about how holy can you be? How right can you do things to make yourself the kind of person that 5 years from now, 10 years from now, people are going to want to be in a relationship with. You don't want to abuse yourself, abuse your body, or abuse it and use another person. If you're truly looking for love, then do the most loving thing that you can, which is not put your needs first, but to learn how to truly love somebody selflessly, not selfishly. So what can you do to find true love? I mean, this is an important question. I would say before you realize, you're worried about how can I find true love? We need to be the kind of person that is the right kind of person for love. That means knowing who you are. And I'm going to wrap up here in a minute. It means know your dreams. What are your goals? What do you want from life? Be thinking about these things now because they will help inform your heart to whom you should be falling in love with. You're like, well, do I have control over it? Absolutely. You don't fall in love like, oh, I couldn't help it. I just fell in love. You're going to choose the person that you're going to have real love with. And you want to be able to do this based on what you want out of life. You want to develop commitment, faithfulness, generosity, to be forgiving, to be kind. You need to learn how to sacrifice. I will tell you that being a husband and a father involves a lot of sacrifice. You have to be willing to work at it. And the last thing I will say in terms of, and this will kind of transition where I'm going to go after the break. Online, if you want to be the kind of person that is the right kind of person for lifelong love, by all means, do whatever you can to stay away from pornography. Most people get a mistake about what the nature of true love is because they see the physical acts of pornography and they're totally void of love. There's no love there. That's just people using each other. Billie Eilish, very talented, beautiful voice, young singer. She's kind of messed up, and she talked about this. I want to just finish this part. She goes, this is Billie Eilish speaking. She said this in an interview. She goes, I used to watch a lot of porn, to be honest. I started watching porn when I was 11. I thought that's how you learned how to have sex, how to find love. But I was watching abusive porn, to be honest, when I was like 14. I think it really destroyed my brain. And I feel incredibly devastated that I was exposed to so much porn. I'm so angry that porn is so loved, she added. And this young lady, even now, is still being healed. And her view of herself and the nature of love was twisted. That's the way so many things on the internet can do that to us. So if we're going to go online, we have to use our heads to guard our hearts. We should stay away from porn and other things that I'll talk about in the second part of our talk. All righty, I'm back. I want to apologize. The wireless internet, for some reason, in my office went down. So I had to switch back to my desktop computer, and it looks a little different, but I'm back. Glad to be back. Hope everyone enjoyed the first part of the program. I want to talk now a little bit about online dating because we are talking about finding real love in the digital age. And if I feel so, I don't know, I feel bad for everything that you guys have had to go through. The pandemic did take a lot away from you guys. You were robbed of real life opportunities to meet and form peer relationships at school and at social functions, at sports practices and events, and other in-person events. You may have had sporadic at best contact. What the pandemic didn't take away, though, is that very normal teenage need to make and form relationships, especially romantic relationships. You guys, it's so interesting. I'm a big fan of romance, of falling in love. My joy is, like I said, is watching my daughters fall in love and find the men of their dreams and get married, and that just I feel like that means I've done my job as a father. And if I were to be able to be with all of you, I would just say, I hope and I pray that you find that for yourself, that you find the joy of romance, but you find that love is so much more than romance. That you go and find someone who you can really give your heart to and be with forever and just find joy. And so much of that was kind of, the opportunity to form those kind of relationships that you could grow into that was taken with you in the pandemic. But fortunately, there was, you guys were blessed with something I never had when I was a little kid. We never had the internet. We never had smartphones. We never had social media. We that was not the world I grew up in. But you've had that opportunity to use the digital world to stay connected to people. And although it has some good, some bad, some ups and downs, some limitations, and everything in between, it's really is a gift for the world. The fact that that we're all together right now online, and I'm in America, thousands of miles away, and yet I'm able to speak with you guys is a technological miracle, in my opinion. I'm just grateful for the opportunity. But if you're going out there to start dating online and use the internet and different apps to get to know people. I think we need to once again use our heads to guard our hearts. This is where you're going to make the right decision so that your heart doesn't get broken, so that you don't get used, so that you don't end up somewhere you didn't want to be, feeling more bad about yourself than you did before you started looking. Maybe you're using apps. There's a few of them out there, especially there's some apps geared towards teens, like maybe it's Milo, Yubo, or Scout. Maybe you're meeting through people through Instagram or Snapchat or Discord, whatever you're using. These were the apps that helped you make connections during the pandemic. There are lots of online spaces for you guys to meet up and to hang out. And honestly, just about every other, just thinking about everything about dating changed since the time I was dating. When I was dating my wife, when I first saw her, I like, wow. Oh, and I promised I'd show you a picture of her. Let me grab it real quick. All right. So I don't know if you can, how clear this is going to come through there, but this is my wife, Lisa. I know you're getting a lot of reflection from my screen there, but she's very pretty, very, very beautiful. Anyway, I'm bragging right now, and it's not a humble brag. I very much love my wife. When I wanted to get to know her, we actually had to be in the same room at the same time with somebody. There wasn't a lot of options for getting to know somebody. There was no social media. There was no, hey, text me later. It was like we actually had to be in the same room and talk. We never were ghosted, slow faded, cuffed, haunted, cookie jarred, or benched. I mean, like all the things that you guys go through in the social media world and in the dating world, trying to get to know people. We met. And if we liked the first date, we had a second. And if you went on a date and you didn't feel the connection, you may or may not have had a second date. If the relationship wasn't deepening into something meaningful, eventually the relationship, you'd break up. Or if, you spent time with this person, you realized they just wanted to use you and they didn't really love you, they didn't really care for you, then you broke up. That was it. There was none of this long-term like texting back and forth and then going into some people's profiles and deep liking them and sending little flirty messages through and putting them under their pictures. We just couldn't drop a quick flirty remark or an emoji under an Instagram pic. I actually had to walk up to the girls I was interested in and say hello. Which, I guess today you kind of, if knowing my daughters and her friends would be like, sup, bruh, like you just come up to somebody, you actually have to say something to them, in which, a lot of young people just struggle with that. They have a hard time making real life connections because they're so used to using their phone as the filter. And so it's just, I'm not saying it's better or worse. I think it's just different, and it comes with a different set of challenges. And so that's what I want to talk about a little bit. When you start dropping likes and hearts on things that people post, and if you want that attention, you can do that deep liking stuff. That the relationship maybe has moved to a deeper level, when the exchange moves from the public forum of their pages or the dating apps into more of a texting or DMing kind of relationship. And so there are ways that dating relationships can progress during social media, but none of them really can take a substitute for actually getting to know somebody, to be with them. So much of communication, 80% or more of it is nonverbal. When you type something or you put an emoji, sometimes, the 3 levels of or 4 levels of communication, there's what you want to say, there's what you actually say, there's what people heard, and then there's what they interpreted you said. So like there's all these different levels, and social media makes it even harder to understand what people mean when they type something. Like, are they typing it? Sometimes we use all caps, and like, are you angry? Like there's little ways that we can kind of type in little things, but even those little hints don't fully express the range of emotions or feelings that we may have or what we're trying to communicate about ourselves. And the other thing is that I think affects your generation when it comes to dating, and even in the online dating, is the idea of FOMO, the fear of missing out, right? fear of missing out has made a lot of people in your generation less confident in committing to something. And it comes because when we get on our phones and we're looking at all the things that are happening around us, we see everybody having these wonderful lives. And like I said, most of the stuff that we see online has been curated and produced and filtered and posed. You ever see people taking selfies? They take 20 different selfies with the face. They want to get it just right so they look hot and the background looks great and everything's wonderful. Then they post it online and you look at that and you're like, I don't think I could ever look like that. They must have such a great life. You're trying to figure out what you want to do on Friday night and somebody says like, well, what are you going to do? I don't know. What are you going to do? And nobody decides. Like, it's now Wednesday. What are you going to do Friday night? I don't know. Well, there's a party. Well, there's also this and there's also that. People don't want to even commit to what they're going to do on Friday night until they find out, well, who else is going to be there? Because if I commit to something and then everyone else goes to this party and I miss out, because they have the wonderful life and I don't want to be here not feeling good about my choices, not feeling good about my life. And so there's a lot of anxiety that's produced by this. There is a lot of fear, and that has spilled over in a lot of ways into dating relationships. And this is why dating online is so much easier. You don't really have to commit. You can flirt, you can text, you can, have this digital relationship with a person. And you can maybe share a little bit about yourself. They'll share a little about themselves. And it's like a no harm, no foul. It's just like building friendships online. Or maybe, you trust them or you're interested in seeing who they are. So you share maybe something a little bit more personal about yourself. That's how relationships develop. And they can develop like that online. But eventually, it's got to cross over from a digital world to the real world. Because my wife and I don't communicate through text message. She texts me when she needs something from the store. She texts me if she needs me to run an errand. She texts me if she has a question and I'm away from the house. But if we want to be together and spend time that's meaningful, we don't sit on one side of the bedroom and on the other and text each other our feelings. We talk. Because when we talk and we're sharing our hearts, that's so much more intimate and meaningful. And so I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with going online and getting to know people. I just think it has limits. Part of it is, because you might have this digital relationship with somebody, they don't know anything else about the relationships that you have or what you're doing. They haven't, unless you tell them. So you could be in a relationship with somebody online, but stalking 3 other people, stalking their social media posts because I saw this guy post something and he's so cute, and this girl is so hot, and I want to, like all the things that go through our mind when we see other people, and it's like we're locked in, but we're not really locked in. We're focused, but we're not really exclusively focused. If you had a crush with somebody that you've seen online but you've never interacted with, that's kind of weird, but it happens. But the limits of the whole online dating thing and why you need to be very careful with this is like right now you are building your identity. And I'm not talking about an online profile. I'm talking about who you are at the deepest part of who you are. Remember, you're like a sphere. You've got the part that you project to the world, this layer that reacts to the world around you. But there's deeper things where you feel things and you feel things more deeply. You have your thoughts, your desires, your beliefs, your fears, something deeper within you. And then there's the core of you, the very center of who you are. And that's the part that's activated for love. That's where love comes from. It comes from the heart. This is why, when you see, we always use the heart as a symbol on Valentine's Day. Oh, I heart you. What that means is not just, oh, I think you're cute. I mean, the reason why for ages, the art and the world around us has equated love with the heart. It's because love comes from the deepest part of us. It moves us to do heroic things. It moves us to do great levels of sacrifice, not just for somebody that we are intimately involved in a romantic way. I think of somebody like Maximilian Kolbe. He was a priest who, during World War II, was arrested and thrown in a concentration camp. And on one day, They lined up all these prisoners because it was an attempted escape, and they were going to round up 12 prisoners and execute them. And Maximilian Kolbe, there was one man who, when they grabbed him, he said, we've picked you to randomly execute you because we're going to punish everybody for those people who escaped. And he started crying, like, I have a family, I have a wife, I have kids, I don't want to die. Maximilian Kolbe stepped forward and said, take me instead of him. And they threw the guy back in line and grabbed Maximilian Kolbe. And they put them in this room, and they were going to starve them to death. That's how they were going to kill them. But Maximilian Kolbe, while he was in there with these other prisoners waiting to die, was praying with them and witnessing his love. And in the end, he lasted longer than any of them. And when he was canonized a saint by St. John Paul II, the man and his family that he saved in the concentration camp were present. Like, that kind of sacrificial love, that deep, I'm willing to lay down my life. And he wasn't even laying down his life for a friend. He laid down his life for a stranger. That kind of witness of love comes from deep in the heart. And that's what you're wanting to develop. You're going to want that kind of heart. You may never be asked to lay down your life in the same way of Maximilian Kolbe, but there's going to be a lot of little ways that you're going to be building yourself to be kind of person who can lay down your life in little ways for the people that you love. I've learned to do that. I wasn't born with that. I had to learn how to do that. You learn it in friendship, you learn it in family. And when you get into a committed relationship, you continue to develop and grow it. I'm not the same person I was on the day I got married. I've grown so much, and my wife has patiently been there by me because I didn't always love her well, but I've learned to love her well. And if I had based it just on feelings, if we had a relationship that was based just on feelings, it never would have lasted. So as you enter into this online dating and you're trying to find out about other people, remember, you need to be developing yourself and building your own identity right now. This identity is going to, as you grow, it's going to feel that need for intimacy and romantic love. These are normal. And there are certain things that as an adolescent, you need to be developing. But these tasks, these things that you want to learn, rely on social involvement and peer interaction. They can't be accomplished just through online. The social isolation from COVID can, and it has for many people, hampered a lot of the developmental progress. And I talked about that in the first session with the depression and anxiety that so many young people in America feel. And while social media and online dating provided a critical way of creating and helping them maintain relationships during the pandemic, we can continue to still use that, but don't use it as a substitute for actually being with your friends. You will never develop the intimacy needed for true love in just an online platform. Long distance relationships are hard when you already have the commitment in place. It's harder to develop a healthy relationship long term. There are things that you can do, but it's not, like I said, there's just limits. And I just want you to be aware of it. The online world attracts a lot of people who want that, though. They don't want to go beyond just, hey, I'm flirty, I'm, emotionally needy. I just need people to like my profile, and I just want people's attention, and I want people to post that they think I'm beautiful. I don't want anyone to really know me. I just want them to notice me, right? There's a lot of, you don't know me, you just notice me kind of activity out there. And because of that kind of competition and need for attention that drives so much of social media, even on dating platforms, you get a lot of things like catfishing, right? Catfishing is when somebody just is somebody they're putting it out there that there's a person that they're really not. They inflate themselves. They make themselves look like they have something more going on in their lives than they really do. Do you know when you come across a picture how many filters have been used on it? Do you know when somebody says, this is my house, that it's really their house, or really their car, or really their life? It's easy to project a facade, an illusion of who you want people to think you are. A lot of people feel this because they don't feel lovable. They create a digital avatar for themselves based on what they think is attractive, what other people will find attractive. But often it's very shallow and showy and based on seeking validation and not connection. Sometimes people have more sinister motives, which is they want to lure you and deceive you in the hopes of scamming people out of money or stealing their identity. A lot of this happens online. And this type of catfishing doesn't happen amongst your peers. Then I guess I would say that they probably, maybe some of your peers are maybe using that softer, less harmful version called kitten fishing, which basically, if you want to boil it down, is like they either lie or misrepresent themselves. So you got to look out for that. You got to make sure that if you're going into a profile that you do some research. Is this person really who they say they are? It's one of the benefits of some of the sites is that they verify people before they let them on, but I'll talk about that in a little bit. We also have to look out for roaching. Roaching happens when the person you've been seeing is actually hiding the fact that they're dating other people. I mean, you might have a relationship with somebody online where it's very romantic and you say flirty things, but that doesn't rule out the fact that they might be doing that with several different people at the same time. And oftentimes when you confront somebody, if you do find out, they'll make claims like, "Oh, I didn't realize this was a monogamous relationship. I'm not necessarily trying to find out how to love you. I'm just trying to spread myself out there, and I'm just want all the love I can get and all the attention I can get." And both guys and girls do this. So you have to be careful. Some people aren't out there looking for an authentic relationship. They're looking to use people. And some people like to be used. It's not healthy, but it happens. Another thing you got to look out for is, like one of the things you might deal with is benching, right? This happens when you meet someone you like, but you're not quite sure if if they have true dating potential. So you text message them every once in a while, just often enough to keep them interested, but you're keeping your options open. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, you're not out, it's okay to try to build just friendships. And not every friendship is going to be as deep as others, but you got to be careful not to be kind of the person that is just out there manipulating people to try to string them along. That's not what healthy online interaction looks like. And there's lots of different things, but the last one I'll mention, that is often they call it breadcrumbing, which is you lead someone along, you send them text messages sporadically because you don't know how to break things off. You want to avoid the confrontation and the drama, or simply, if you're doing this, you're doing it because you like attention, and you enjoy knowing that you're keeping them interested in you, even though you have no intention of pursuing them any further than, hey, I'm just going to keep breadcrumbing them so they'll keep coming back and paying attention to me. And that's kind of emotionally manipulative. It's not what a healthy online relationship should look like. And it's certainly not anything not any of us would want to go through ourselves. We wouldn't want somebody to ghost us. We wouldn't want somebody to bench us. We wouldn't want to get roached or breadcrumbed. I mean, there's so many things that hurt. And it's easy to find lots of fake people online. Online dating is as good as it is and as awesome it is to be able to connect. It's also very frustrating because the words on the screen can't always capture and express true emotion. But it's more than that. There's online dating. You have to be very careful. Once again, use your head to guard your heart, but also to guard who you are. There are dangers in online dating that you need to be aware of. Not all online dating sites are created equal. Some are very unsafe and unsecure. In fact, 10% of sex offenders use online dating sites to meet potential victims. There are people that are deliberately going online and posing, grown men posing as teenage boys or teenage girls in order to lure people into a relationship that could lead to grooming or worse. 25% of rapists use online dating sites to meet potential victims, and every day there are at least 500,000 predators actively scouring and targeting teenage girls and boys on the internet. The internet, for all of its goodness, is mostly an unregulated wild west of all sorts of people with very evil and destructive intent. If you're going to enter into that world, especially the world of online dating, people know that if you go to an online dating site, if you're entering social media, you're probably doing it because you're looking for a relationship. And because there are so many insecure young men and women in the world, they know how to manipulate and prey upon that insecurity. This is why, I would say, if you really want to protect yourself, have fulfilling real life relationships in your life. Don't go on the internet out of need Go out of there because you want to be there, and go on there knowing that you can step away and your life won't fall apart. So many people are stuck to their phones because every little like, every little heart gives them a rush of dopamine, makes them feel good about themselves because their real life relationships are so awful. And so many people have given up on real life relationships and invest completely in these online relationships. And they're the most vulnerable for manipulation and falling into these traps. Worldwide, it's estimated that currently 4.5 million are in forced sexual exploitation. That means they've been trafficked, and 2 million of those people are minor children, like yourselves. Many of these young people were lured into trafficking at a young age through the internet. And when you consider that over half the people who have an online profile, an online dating profile, lie on it, all I'm saying is be very, very careful. Be very, very careful out there. Finding love in the virtual world is very difficult. Finding romance, finding a thrilling relationship, getting to know somebody, that thrill of getting a new friend, you can do that a lot. But you have to be very careful because there's so many steps to falling from falling in love to developing real love that the virtual world can never really accomplish. So those are the dangers. So how do you keep yourself safe online? Well, if you're going to meet people through a dating site, use one that is trusted. And the free sites are much more vulnerable than the pay sites, because when you pay to join a dating site or a relationship site, what you're paying for is them filtering members and validating people's identities. That takes time, it takes money. So the predators are out there going to the free sites. They're also looking at your social media posts. I can promise you, unless you have a hidden friends only social media presence, that there's online predators looking at your stuff every day. They're just out there. But more importantly than, before you even get online, I want to encourage you, live your best life offline. Don't let your best life be your online life. Because if your best life is your online life, then you're not really enjoying the fullness of life. Virtual relationships are awesome. Real life relationships truly fulfill you. I don't believe virtual relationships can give you the same level of satisfaction and joy that real relationships can. And that means sticking it out with your family. Families are difficult. There's no doubt about it. Families can be challenging, but families in the family, you learn the lessons that you need. Even if it's from somebody else's poor example, you can learn in every situation how to be better, how to be more generous, how to be more loving, serving, forgiving. Learn from your classmates and your friends. Spend time with these people. You're on a shared journey with common interests. That's what marriage is. That's what lifelong love looks like. You're on a shared journey with common interests. Learn how to do that in real life with your friends right now, especially the friends that you have through church, because not only do you connect on surfacey things like, hey, we like the same music, we like the same sports, we like the same television shows and movies, we have the same faith. Connect with people and learn how to build relationships on the things that really matter. If you have these anchors in your life, in real life, you won't drift into bad relationships online. You won't feel the need to enter into a risky relationship online. Use your head to guard your heart, and use the people that God has put in your life to be your safety net. Another thing I would want to encourage you to do is, if you are in an online relationship, and that's great, but share with a trusted friend about your online interactions. Oftentimes, we are too close to situations to see the red flags that might be there. But a good and trusted friend might just be able to say, hey, are you sure this is healthy? Are you sure this is right? Are you sure this is good? And if that trusted friend can be a family member, that's all the better. But if you don't feel like you have anyone in your family that you can trust with these conversations, find a friend that you trust to share about your online relationships. Fourth thing, limit the amount of personal information you put online. Don't give your home address to anyone online. Don't do that. Don't share out any personal passwords for any of your accounts. Um, you know, keep that private information private, because a lot of people, if they find out certain information, they'll try to steal your identity. If not your identity, your parents' identity. There's so many scammers out there. So just limit the amount of personal information you put online. Don't let any app you use, all right, whether it be a social media app or a dating app, actually put your location online. You can, most phones have the ability to turn off location sharing. Turn off your location sharing. People don't really need to know where you are, because that's when they start to stalk you in real life. Number 6, do some research. If you come across a profile of a person online, do what you can to verify that they are who they say they are. If they have social media posts, if they have links on their page to go check out their social media. You'll find out what kind of person you are. You'll find out before you even communicate with them once who they really are. Next, be wary of anyone online who tries to manipulate you into doing anything you are uncomfortable with. Like I said, many people lie about who they are, and they're groomers. And what they will do, they will say to you, "Oh, you feel like," they know that, especially if you're online in the middle of the night and you're not sleeping. They probably know that you're, you maybe have issues in your life. Maybe you've got anxiety, and they'll enter into a chat with you. They'll ask you about your life and secrets. And I've read many stories where young ladies tell a deep secret to somebody online, and then the person says, "I'm going to tell your parents what you told me unless you do this, unless you send me $50, or whatever, you wire me this." Oftentimes they use these secrets to build trust and say, "Oh, you just seem like such a special person. I know you're hurting. I just want to meet you in real life." And they promise things, and it's all a lie. And these, and there's abuse and worse that happens because of this. If somebody asks you to send something, "Come on, I'm just curious. You're so hot. Send me a pic." If they text you, the GNOC, a lot of people use that slang, which means get naked on camera. Get out of there as soon as possible. Don't ever post anything online, because anything you post online becomes the property of sometimes of the companies that you're working with, or worse, the person that you just shared it with is going to use it and exploit it. And with all the deep faking and just weirdness out in the world, just don't ever put a picture online that would come back to haunt you. If someone harasses you, stalks you, or does anything suspicious, block them. Report them to the admins of the site you're using. You can do that. You're perfectly allowed to do that. And tell your parents. Tell your parents. Finally, establish boundaries for yourselves. And what I mean by that is have time limits. Don't spend the majority of your day. I mean, here in America, some teens are on their phones 8 to 10 hours a day. And I just think about this. If you're so invested in the online world that you're spending 8 hours a day, that's 1/3 of your life. That means by the time you're 60, you'll have spent 20 years of your life just looking at your phone. 20 years. What you could accomplish in this world, the good that you could do if you spent just a fraction of the time that you get caught up on social media and your phones doing good, serving, you would be more happy, because phones don't give happiness. Phones connect you, but relationships and giving of yourself is the true path of happiness, real love. This online world, like I said, it's great to be able to connect that way, but it's got its limits. And for every good that it brings to your life, I can list 10 to 20 challenges or potholes or even traps that you can fall into if you don't use it properly. And in my own life with my own 14-year-old daughter, I won't let her get on TikTok. I won't let her download it on her phone, because there's so many messages that come to you that are just lies through TikTok, and so much garbage that comes into your mind through TikTok. And that's just one example. I protect my daughter because I don't want her to become a victim, and I don't want her to waste her life online. When she gets up in the morning before she goes to school, I have her phone. I keep it in my room at night. I unplug it. I hand it to her. She goes out. She has her friends. She does fine. She's texts me during the day or texts me after school. She needs something. When she gets home, at night, she'll spend a little bit of time, but by 8 o'clock every night, she hands me her phone. I plug it back in and she's done with it for the night. And she gets good grades. She's on a travel volleyball team. She's a cheerleader. She's on, she does all this stuff. I'm just saying, like, you don't need to be plugged into your phone 24/7 to have a full and happy life. I think we feel like we're going to be missing out on something. Once again, FOMO, if we don't have our phones on and in front of us at every moment. But there's a big, beautiful world around you that you need to be tuned into. Continue to meet people online. Continue to have that fun. Heck, you might even find somebody that makes your heart beat really fast that you fall in love with online. But eventually, every relationship has to go IRL, right? In real life. And if that does happen, make sure that your first date with somebody you meet online is a group date in a public place. Never meet up with somebody you met online for the first time alone. And finally, guys and gals, trust your gut. Don't let the infatuation and the emotion of somebody you meet online rob you of your ability to sniff out garbage. If something seems off, it probably is. Trust your gut, be smart, and know that the God who created you for real love will guide you if you ask him. Continue to lean into your faith, continue to lean into your friends, trust in your family and their love for you, and just continue to use your head to guard your heart, and know that there's great love for each one of you, and I hope you find it. And I hope you enjoy your teen years and do this all very smart and healthy way. So that concludes part 2. I think we're going to go into some Q&A.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. BEAULIeu, for the information you have stated and given us regarding, love at the digital age. And I really love what you said, like in the first part, talk, diba? Like he talked about how love is not just purely emotion, and then parang if we apply it to like us, like yung mga slang natin dito, like hindi lang siya quote-unquote spark, parang you have to choose to love them every day. And hindi yung like one day mawawala lang, tapos sabihin, hindi na kita love, so love. Pero, ano ba, ikaw ba, what are your insights? Well, actually, to add to what you said, sobrang agree ako sa sinabi mo. Pero for me, love is like, it's mostly being selfless, to give a part of yourself to your partner. Yeah, so I am sure that our attendees were able to pick up the information that we or must know from that talk. Okay, and to our attendees, if you have any questions, please send it via the QR code displayed in the front, or I'm sure we already have questions in the Zoom, and then we'll entertain them right now. So again, thank you to Mr. John BEAULIeu for the information you have shared with us. Thank you so much. And okay,
And again, we would like to thank our sponsors for tonight that made this event possible. Craft Coffee and Chic Center. Okay. So we will be starting the Q&A section. And now we will wrap up the talks for tonight, and we'll be moving on to ask you guys. For you guys to be asking questions to Mr. John.
okay, yeah. So we already have questions in Zoom, right? So what was natin na lang? Yes. Oh yeah, and if you guys have questions, you could send it here. You could scan the QR code and send your questions, and we will still entertain them. All right.
Okay, so if you guys have more, please don't forget to send them over. Thank you so much.
Good morning, Mr. John BEAULIeu, Honorable Alicia Legaspi. I'm the Vice President for Catalyst, and I'll be the one to ask you the questions that our participants have sent through the form today. So for anyone else who has any more questions that you may think of during this Q&A session, you may do so through the QR code or through the link sent to the chat box via Zoom. And just so everyone's aware, this is a safe space, and rest assured, all your questions will remain anonymous. Now, Mr. Boy, we have our first question here for today. You mentioned that real love cannot be found in phones. What if you found someone you truly want to be with through an online setting? Can you share tips on how to maintain love even during international long distance relationships?
Sure. I would suppose, like number one, make sure that you're ready to make this commitment, right? It is very important, like I said, that we become the right kind of person to find real love. And that means, am I generous? Am I kind? Am I forgiving? Be who you need to be. But once you find that person, if you find them online, can you find love internationally and long distantly? Absolutely. I would say, once again, it's very challenging because I would say, make sure that you spend a lot of time doing the virtual chatting. Like, you need to see people face to face. You need to be able to have conversation. I think that's the real key is, talk about what you want to share. Talk about, how would you have a virtual date online? If you were like, okay, I'm going to take you to my favorite coffee shop, and you take them virtually there, things like that. You have to be creative. And you have to make sure, once again, that whoever you're with, they truly are who they say they are. I think one of the great challenges that I've encountered with people who are in long distance relationships is eventually somebody says, well, I want to come meet you in real life. Can you send me, $2,000 so I can buy a plane ticket? And they're like, oh yes, I can't wait to meet you. They send them the $2,000 and then they never hear from them again. Like, they strung them along all this time just so that they could have them wire them money. And so once again, it is simply doing your homework and making sure that you know who you're with, that you're old enough to handle the challenge of this relationship, and know what you're truly looking for, and making sure that that person shares your values, and that you're both being wise about how you share information and spend your time together, so that you can develop a deeper level of intimacy that goes beyond just casual chatting in an online form, if that makes sense.
All right, thank you so much for that, Mr. Bowman. Now, our next question would be, what are your thoughts on no-label relationships?
I'm sorry, there was like a little bit of a background noise.
Oh,
can you repeat the question?
The question is, what are your thoughts on no-label relationships?
I'm still having a hard time. Like, for some reason, our connection is kind of warbly. What kind of relationships?
No label relationships.
No label. Oh, like we're not really dating. We're not really defining our relationship.
Yes, like people who are afraid to put a label in their relationship.
If you're afraid to put a label on the relationship, it's probably just a friendship, or it's pre-friendship, or and I think that's the great challenge is every generation has to define what the terms are, and they change all the time. I would say it's probably best to have no label relationships for as long as you can, because once again, I'm getting to know you. Are we in love? Are we dating? Are we a couple? I'm interested in you, but that's just part of the process. I don't think we need to worry about how do we define these things, because once again, you're going to find that every few months the terms change anyway. I mean, I remember there was a time when they're like, oh, I like somebody. Oh, you like them, but do you like them? Like, that meant you liked them more than just a friend. Are they more than a friend? Are they, there are labels that are not healthy. Like, oh, are they a friend with benefits, which basically means we're not in a committed relationship, but we're physically doing things with one another that we shouldn't be doing. But those are the benefits. I mean, there's a lot of different ways that people label these things, and I would say the labels are superficial. What matters is not what you call it, but the quality of the relationship. Do you respect one another? Do you treat one another, whether you're friends or getting serious? Is it built on mutual respect, care for the person? Because love doesn't seek its own. It's not selfish. Are you able to really care for that person for who they are? That should be every friendship. I don't think there's a special threshold that you cross in a relationship. All of a sudden, we're going to define it this way, and And it's usually, we usually define relationships because we want to give everyone else around us a sense of the barriers that we've created because of this relationship. Well, we're exclusive. So girls, back off, he's mine. Or, guys, I'm going out with this girl to let people know, like, we're in something very exclusive and personal. If you are, and you're in a relationship where you're dating seriously because you want to get to know each other in a deeper way, I don't know if having a definition makes all that much of a difference, as long as you guys know who you are. And if you guys know who you are and you're in a good place as a couple, then don't worry about definitions and don't worry about how other people perceive it. Just be healthy and be happy and keep the relationship moving forward with mutual love and respect.
Hi, Mr. Beaulieu. I apologize.
Yes.
This question
No.
was asked fairly frequently.
Uh-huh.
Do you think that an open relationship is real love?
Open in the sense that you date other people at the same time. If that's what you're meaning by an open relationship, then I don't think that's real love. I think one of the things about love, especially romantic love, is we are not hardwired to do this with a ton of people. There's a reason, and I don't want to just lean on the church's teaching for this, because it's more than just the church's teaching. The church teaches, affirms how we are created by God, which is to give ourselves to another person in such a way that we become one with them in all ways, and help create a better society by creating a family that's stable and contributing on a broader level. This is so much bigger than just two people drifting in and out of whatever kind of relationship they want. I think open relationships, the people in open relationships have a hard time emotionally committing. They're not necessarily happy people. Like when we look at people in the world who live their lives like this, I don't see a lot of joy in people who are not who feel like a relationship doesn't have to have any kind of level of commitment. Now, if you're saying I'm not committed to anyone right now, I'm just kind of out there learning who I am, and I want to have go on dates with a lot of different people, that's great. You should be doing that. If you're not in a position where you can really truly develop a lifelong commitment of love, you should be getting to know other people and finding out who makes you happy, what kind of guy, what kind of woman makes you happy, that you want to spend time with. And I'm not just talking about physically compatible, because that's such a small portion of every relationship. I'm talking about, does this person share dreams with me? Do we have things in common? Can we talk? Do I actually like this person as a friend? Because friendship is the basis of every long-lasting romantic love. So in the sense that if you're not ready for a committed relationship, I wouldn't say you're in an open relationship. You're just out there dating and finding out who you are and trying to find out what you like in the other, in the people that you're going out with. And that's fine. But once you are at that level where, hey, there's a level of intimacy we've developed, and we're either the relationship's going to move forward and find a natural conclusion of you guys are going to spend the rest of your life together, or you're going to break up. And while you're in that period where you're like actually courting one another and going deeper, being in an open relationship doesn't serve either of you well. You got to learn how to also be faithful to one person at a time. That's going to be if you want to have a true real love relationship, you're going to have to learn how to commit. And so open relationships kind of undermine our ability to commit, and are really driven by once again this fear of missing out. If I commit to this relationship, I can't have that relationship. And that's exactly right. On my wedding day, I didn't just say yes to my wife to be with her forever. I said no to every other woman on the planet. And that's part of making this decision to find real love. But I would not go back and change my mind, not after 32 years. I would do it all over again. I believe that what I've found in my wife is beautiful and awesome, and wouldn't trade it for anything. And I can't imagine even now, like even entertaining the idea of trying to have a relationship with another woman that would even come close to what I have with my wife. So no, I don't think open relationships are a good idea once you've progressed past, hey, I'm just trying to figure out who I am, and I'm just dating for the sake of trying to find who I like, because there's nothing wrong with going out on dates. But once you get that, like I said, once you get to a certain point, you got to learn how to commit.
Thank you, Mr. Beaulieu. For the next question, why are we always drawn to red flags, most especially to romance films, for instance? And what can you do if you feel insecure in a relationship?
So the first part was about red flags. Are you asking like, what are the red flags, or what red flags should you be looking for?
Rather, like, why are people always drawn to red flags? For instance, I know that this person would be bad, but I'm still drawn to having a relationship with him. Or
Because we're human and sometimes we're stupid. I don't know. It's something interesting, because like there's a lot of there's a lot of movies and music that talk about like, oh, he's a bad boy, but I can't keep, they were drawn to people that necessarily, part of that needs to be like, it'd be good for you to step back and say, why am I drawn to drama? Why am I looking for things that will, not necessarily be good for me? Why do people choose to smoke? We make bad choices, right? I think, like I would just say to anyone who's like, I always have like, attractions to people that I know that are probably not good for me. And I don't know if this relationship could go anywhere, but I still want to try it. I think we're risk takers. I think that's part of being human, is like like bungee jumping and stuff. We want to try things that are thrilling. But I think the danger in that is, you are not meant to allow yourself to be emotionally beat up, and you're not. You really shouldn't drag yourself through the mud emotionally. I mean, I understand that. There's a thrill there, but I think you'd really want to understand. What am I looking for? Why is it? Why does it have to? Why am I drawn to that? Is it because there's something missing in my life? Are other parts of my life boring? Am I not taking healthy risks in other ways? And am I just feeling like every part of my life is so controlled that I just want a part of my life that might get out of control, because that would be thrilling for a change. There's probably something underneath it all that, emotionally, there's a need that needs to be met within you, that you're thinking the bad boy might be able to fill, or whatever the guy or girl that you might be pursuing is. I think you have to look at it and also be very careful, because even if you're saying, oh, yeah, that person's going to fulfill me, in the end, the relationship will fulfill you. And what I mean by that is the relationship you share with a person will fulfill you, but there's not one person in and of themselves that can satisfy your deepest needs, because your deepest needs are not just to be loved, but to love completely. And if you're just using somebody because they give you an emotional rush, that's not love. You won't be fulfilled because you're not pursuing them because you think there's something there that you can love. You're pursuing them because you think there's something that can fulfill one of your emotional needs. And your emotional needs will change over time. And if that's all your relationship is based on, that person, you won't have what it takes to have long committed love. So I think it's more about you being comfortable with who you are and knowing what you need, and not seeking things in a relationship that you shouldn't be seeking, like an emotional rush from somebody that might look a little dangerous or risky.
Right, due to time constraints, that was unfortunately the last question we were able to accommodate. However, for those who have further questions, you can send in your questions and we'll forward them to Mr. Beaulieu, and hopefully we can get back to you afterwards. Thank you, Mr. Beaulieu.
You're welcome.
Okay, so now we will be moving on to the raffle draw. Who's excited? Show me your excitement. Yeah, itaas yung energy. Let's go, guys.
Gusto manalo.
Palakasan tayo. Decide muna. If gusto nyo manalo, scream your heart out. Ayun. This is 1, 2, go.
I think this side will do better than that. Kaya ba? 1, 2, 3.
Gusto na lang manalo. Okay. Grabe, yung raffle na yung pinaka-favorite segments ko ng events, like Christmas parties, kasi hindi ko alam, I might win a 75-inch TV.
Ang dami mo interest niya. Pero, that's not our prize. So, wala talagang 75-inch TV. What our prizes go is the following. So, we will have one winner of Carafe Coffee's coffee on top. We'll have 3 winners of 500 pesos gift vouchers for Carafe Coffee's product and 40 goodie bags from Sheet Nail Color. So, you can see what's here. That's our prize.
Okay. Please note for our online winners that are
Yeah, so for our online winners, if you guys win, but you guys are online, our external finance team will get in touch with you.
grabe. There's so much prizes. This is so bongga pa nila. Excited talaga. Gusto nang manalo.
You know what? I was never lucky in raffles eh. The raffle courses never would be.
Well, I guess it's now time to see who the raffle force is with.
May the raffle course be with you all. We will, may wheel dyan.
We will be putting up a wheel of names. There it is.
The winner of the Cara Coffee's Coffee and Top, right? Okay.
Okay, congratulations. Nicole, you passes good down.
Here with us,
Jane, is your presence here with us today? Are you online?
wala ko kang online siya. So, for Nicole, our external finance team will be in touch with you after that.
Okay. So next up, our first winner for the 500 gift voucher for Cara Coffee's products is
Pesos.
wow! She's right there. Everybody give her a round of applause. Once the photographer, now the subject of the photo. Yeah. You guys, don't worry. There will be 2 more winners of this 500 peso gift voucher. Okay. Are you guys ready to find out the second winner?
The second winner of the 500 peso gift voucher is
Margarita and Karen.
Is she here with us today?
Is your presence? Let your presence be known. Let your presence be heard and
Mukhang
felt.
online na. So, our external finance team will be in touch with you once again.
Okay, so for our third winner for the 500 peso gift voucher is Mahimik.
Spence. Sino to?
Charmaine and Peras Gozon. Are they with us today?
Okay. Online lang.
Okay, so we will now be moving on to the 40 winners of the goodie bags for Sheet Nail Color.
Grabe, how many winners?
40. Kaya we will be
40.
presenting you the names of the winners that we have already pre-spun. And yes, there they are.
If you see your name on screen, you can go.
Okay, so first is Pauline Margaret Vivar.
We also have Jose Victor Santos,
We then have Christine Belleran,
Kyla Marie Medal,
Maria Rosalie Boldador,
Bettina Marie Marandion,
Kyle Nestor J. Tria,
Aries Ariel Sualo,
Marie Louise Clavecillas,
Alice Beatriz Carriazo,
Rayan Isaac Rios Malilin,
Gabriel Alexis Poli. I'm sorry, looks like that. If you guys are going to get your
okay, Federico Leonis Tejas,
we have Angela Marie Garcia,
Maria Alexia Quinto,
Beatrice Beatan,
Joshua Daniel Punzalan,
Joey Juarez,
Kelly Lynn Gomez.
and finally Tisha Marie.
Okay, si Josh Punzalan, he's in the Zoom chat right now. Sabi niya, oh my God, slay.
Slay talaga. There are more!
Yes, of course, guys.
We have Faith Isabel Halili,
And Marcos Joshua Cornia,
Mauro Veloso,
Paula Erica Bartolome,
Inigo Gabriel Gutierrez,
Juan Mateo Calabig,
Althea Barbara Vasquez,
Ray Julio Robilio Medina.
Marcos Joshua Correa Alfred.
Oh, double the prize! Grabe to. Okay, next we have Mary Angela Socorro Nito,
Maria Angeline Castellano,
Micaela de Guzman,
Saulo Stefano Lizares,
Sean William Chua,
Maria Selena Tolentino,
Bianca Go,
John Mark Lacson,
Eunice Nebres.
Sidat Vishwanathan,
Okay, and lastly, we have Brian Orcega. Congratulations to all our winners! Ayan.
may dalawang Marcos Tornea na nanalo. Grabe.
They are collecting their prizes in front. Ayan, they're taking a picture.
Ano ba yung laman ng goodie bag?
Nail polish.
Congrats!
Either for self-use or for gifting purposes.
Sayang ko sa
Oh. Thank you so much and congratulations to all our winners. And then, for the people who were not able to win anything, don't worry because we have a surprise for you all. Kaya so
So, we will be giving out vouchers to everyone. Vouchers.
yes, everyone will receive 10% discount from Caracom for all attendees using the code RLR10 at checkout.
RLR10 at checkout at Carafe Coffee. So special thanks again to our generous sponsors, Carafe Coffee and Chic Center.
Okay, meron tayong person from Zoom, si Angela Marie Garcia, one of our winners. Sabi niya, hard react.
Sabi ni Josh Punzalan,
Girl, okay. Everyone, we will all leave this event tonight as winners. Happy Valentine's Day from Catalyst.
yeah.
Well, there you have it, everyone. That concludes Real Love Revolution 2023 Love in the Digital Age. Thank you, everyone, for attending this event. We hope that this helped you with the concerns and questions that you may have had regarding love, and the lessons we picked up tonight may guide us in making the right decisions moving forward. We would now call on our project heads, Kenji Uy and Elaine Cruz, to award the certificate of appreciation to St. John Voluntary.
So we present the certificate of appreciation to Mr. John BEAULIEU for imparting his valuable insights and inspiration during Catalyst of UA&P's Real Love Revolution 2023, given this 17th day of February 2023 at the University of Asia and the Pacific, Pasig City. Thank you so much again, Mr. John BEAULIEU.
Thank you. It was my pleasure. You guys are awesome. Remember, God looks at you. You're awesome. You're worthy of love. Be safe out there.
Thank you.
Continue
Mr.
to.
John BEAULIEU, would you like to say some words for our audience? Thank you.
Yeah, just thank you so much for the opportunity to be with you. And just know that I'm going to keep you in prayer. You guys are awesome. You are created for love. You are lovable. And don't let anyone else tell you anything else. Just keep your heart open to one another and keep seeking.
Sir, we can't hear
God bless
you.
Let's see. I'm unmuted. Let's see here. I don't know what's going on. I'm not.
It's the sound in the auditorium, not John. We can hear John here in Zoom.
We can hear you now, sir.
Okay. Well, I just want to say to everybody, thank you for being a part of this, and thank you for letting me be a part of it. For me, I know that each one of you, you're created out of love and for love. And I hope that as you continue to grow and share your lives with one another, your family, that you find the love that you're created for, and know that you don't settle for anything else but God's best for you. May God bless you all. Be safe, be healthy, and hopefully I'll see you again soon.